There's been lots of change over the last few years, and this change has directly impacted the accounts payable function, and more specifically, the best practices that every organization needs to use if they want to run a cost-effective, regulatory compliant, fraud-resistant accounts payable function. In this accounts payable soundbite, we're going to address 5 of those changes that everyone should be making. Welcome to Accounts Payable Soundbites, the program where we share and explain simple and complex accounts payable issues in short, concise soundbites. I'm Mary Schaefer, AP Nail's founder, the place where you go for all the latest business intelligence if you work in, manage, or have responsibility for the accounts payable function. So let's get started. Let's talk about these 5 changing best practices. Practice number 1. When you set up a new vendor in your master vendor file, you should verify that vendor against the OFAC list. This is the list, the OFAC list or the SDN list put out by the Department of Treasury is the list of all companies and entities that the U.S. government does not allow U.S. companies to do business with. So if something's on the list, that's a no-no. That's not somebody who you should be paying any money to. Now, just remember before you get involved in that and before you do it, that you'll get some false positives. So don't have heart failure the minute you see the name of a company that you put in show up on the list. You need to do a little bit more investigation. Remember, a lot of companies have the same name. So investigate before you have heart failure. Okay, you're actually supposed to check all your payments against that list every time you do a payment run. But we know that most companies just are not set up to do that. But you can do it as part of your new vendor setup. So you want to adjust your new vendor setup procedures, policies, and procedures to include that step. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, when you have your 1099 file ready to go, and hopefully it's not the day before it's due at the IRS and to go in the mail, you want to run that information through IRS TIN Matching, and then if there are any mismatches, you want to fix them before you issue the 1099s. Now you may be saying, well, if we issue it and there's a mismatch, we'll just get a B notice and we can work the B notice then. Yes, that's true. You will get a B notice if there's a mismatch, but it's a royal pain to do it when the IRS notifies you. And there's also proposed fines and penalties because then you have to use their rigid procedures. If you get a mismatch before you issue it, then you can just contact the vendor and you can do it at your own leisure, so to speak. You don't have to use their regulations. You can just pick up the phone and call, or you can send an email. Now you might be saying, how could this be? We've already run them through when we first set them up. And that's true. However, your supplier may have had a change in circumstance which have led them to have a different name TIN match, and that's why. And they didn't think to tell you. And let's face it, most of your customers won't. Most of your suppliers won't think to tell you. There's no reason why they should. Okay, number 3. Everybody should be updating, if they have not already done so, their remote work reimbursement policy for obvious reasons, what we've gone through in the last few years, and we expect to see a bigger move towards remote work, either on a full or part-time basis. Now, when you do this, not only you want to update it, but you want to make sure that policy that you set up is in line with IRS regulations as this published in Publication 463, which is updated every year. And also keep in mind that the changes that were put forth in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. So that's something that you want to do, or that everybody wants to do. Now, before we get to the last 2 best practices, I'd like to invite you to subscribe. It's free, completely private, and you can unsubscribe at any time. By ringing the bell next to the subscribe button, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will be notified every time we post new content. And we post new accounts payable related content on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on Saturdays, if you're looking for a little fun, we've been doing some Wordle videos. So for at least for the next few weeks. You can find that there. All right. Back to the not fun stuff, if you will. Okay. Tip number 4. Best practice number 4. You should try and receive all of your invoices electronically. Now, even before COVID hit, we were probably at least 2/3 of all invoices were being sent electronically. But COVID highlighted, if you will, some of the issues of relying on postal mail to get your invoices. The mail can sometimes be slow. And wrong addresses, whole bunch of other things. So as much as possible, if you can convince your suppliers to send you the invoices electronically, that will help improve your efficiency. And listen, when we say electronically, I also mean email. Well, that's not 100%, but as long as your vendors are emailing you the invoices, then you can get them directly. And set up a special email address just for your emailed invoices. So try and get as many of your suppliers converted to that. Not, by the way, email and snail mail, just email, because then you end up with the problem of duplicate invoices. Okay, and now, the last one that I want to talk to you about, it has to do with fraud, unfortunately. Okay, when you hear of a new fraud, and there continue to be new frauds, okay, it's just mind-boggling at how many there are. But whenever you hear about one, as soon as you hear about it, make it a top priority to share that information with everyone on staff, and anyone else who might be impacted. I like to say it should be shared with everyone from the CEO right down to the person who sweeps the floor. That might be a little exaggeration, but not much of one, because crooks are amazingly adept at finding new ways to wiggle their way into an organization. One of the things that I heard was a story from one of my readers, I guess. And what she said is they had been hit with the gift card scam. And so they updated all their employees and they thought they were fine. And then they got hit with the second time and a third time. And they couldn't figure out what had happened because they'd updated everybody. But what they figured out eventually was that whoever it was perpetrating this fraud had found a way, probably through LinkedIn, I'm guessing, but I don't know that for sure, to identify new employees. And then they were pulling the scam on new employees who were also falling for it, which was kind of mean because, when you're new at a job, that's the last thing that you want. Now, if you're wondering why best practices matter so much, we have a short little piece on it, and we'll link to it in the show notes below. Also, we'll have a link to it appearing if you're watching on YouTube on the left, okay? And as always, we greatly appreciate your thumbs up, your comments, your shares, and your subscribes. Good luck, everybody.